Hey guys, today you're going to be working on an assignment that practices everything you've learned about slope in the last week. So I thought it would be helpful to do one example together of each type of question so you know what I'm looking for. So take a look at your worksheet, find number 1, and in number 1 you are asked to complete the table to identify 4 points that fall on this line that's defined as y equals negative 3x minus 4. And you're going to see that I already gave you the 4 x coordinates that I'd like you to use. So we're very simply going to take those x coordinates and replace the variable x with them in our equation. So in this first one, I'm going to put y equals negative 3, and I'm replacing the x with a negative 1 minus 4. And if I solve that, I follow order of operations. So negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3, and positive 3 minus 4 leaves me with negative 1. So one pair that falls on this line is negative 1, negative 1. My next x value is 0. So again, I'm going to replace x with a 0. So y equals negative 3 times 0 minus 4. And if I solve this one, again, I follow order of operations. So negative 3 times 0 is 0. 0 minus 4 is negative 4. So the next point that sits on this line is 0, negative 4. My third point has an x value of 1. So this time I'm going to replace x with 1. So y equals negative 3 times 1 minus 4. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Minus 4 gets me to negative 7. So my third point is 1, negative 7. And then finally, my last point that I'm going to do for this line, x is a value of 2, so y equals negative 3 times 2 minus 4. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6, minus 4 gets me negative 10. And then my ordered pair would be 2, negative 10. And you're going to go ahead in a couple minutes, you're going to do number 2 just like that, but you're going to use the new equation that's given to you in that table. When we get down to the next section, questions 3 through 8, you have 2 sets of ordered pairs, and those ordered pairs represent 2 points that are on the line. And given those points, you are asked to find the slope of that line. So when we get to this section, you have to use your formula, y minus y divided by x minus x. So let's go ahead and write down our formula so that we remember that. And please keep in mind when you're deciding the order of subtraction for the y's, it doesn't matter. I know that my y pairs are the 7 and the negative 1, so I can either do 7 minus negative 1 or negative 1 minus 7. I'm going to choose to start with the 7. So in my numerator, I'm going to have 7 minus negative 1. And because I started with the 7 for my y's, that determines that I have to start with its pair negative 2 for x's. So the denominator will be negative 2 minus 4. When I'm solving, I see 2 negatives here, so I add the opposite, and we add the opposite on the denominator as well. So I end up with 7 plus 1, which is 8. And then negative 2 plus negative 4 is negative 6. I'm going to simplify this fraction. I see that 8 and 6 both have a common factor of 2. So I'll divide both of them by 2, 4 over negative 3. And I know it's really tempting to go ahead and make that a mixed number, but when we're dealing with slope, we leave our fractions improper. So 4 over negative 3 is your final answer. You're going to use that same formula in a couple minutes to complete numbers 6 through 8. But for right now, let's flip to the back of our papers. Take a look at number 9. Number 9, you have a graph that looks just like the one you see here. And we're asked to determine the slope and then write an equation in y equals mx plus b form for each line. So in order to write this equation, I have to determine the slope, and then I also have to determine the y-intercept. And the y-intercept is really easy, so I'm actually going to do that first. So I'm going to look at my y-axis, and I see that there's a point on the y-axis right here, and that point is at 1, 2, 3, 4. So I know that b is 4. So I'm going to write that down so I don't forget. And then we're going to find our slope. So I can choose any 2 points off the line that I want. I'm going to go with this one and this one. So I'm counting my rise over my run. So to get from here to here, I go down 1, 2, over 1, 2, 3. So it was down 2, so that's a -2. And then it was right 3, so that's a +3. So my slope is -2/3. Whoopsies, sorry about that. -2/3. So my equation, y equals, the m gets replaced with the -2/3, and that always sits with the coefficient of x, and then my y-intercept, or b, gets replaced with 4, so +4. And then we're going to jump down to our last section, so please find number 15 on your paper. And for this one, we're working backwards from what we did in the previous section. So here, you're given an equation. I want you to give me the line. So again, the slope is sitting with the x, so that's your -2. We like to think a slope as a fraction, so I'm going to go ahead and make -2 a fraction by putting it over 1. And then the 3 is our y-intercept, or the b. And the b tells you where to begin. So I'm going to find the y-axis. I'm going to count up +3, and I'm going to put a dot. My slope, -2 over 1. So my rise is a -2, so I'm going to come down 2, 1, 2. My run is a +1, come to the right 1. Again, we go down 2, right 1, down 2, right 1. I'm going to say put at least 3 dots on your line, and then go ahead and draw me a line connecting the dots. So at this time, you can go ahead and complete the rest of the paper. Feel free to work in any order that you would like.